Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be talking about Tales from the Loop. Now, I want to review this in two parts. So I'm going to talk about some non-spoilers first. I'm going to give you my opinion on the overall series with non-spoilers. And then we'll delve into spoilers surrounding what I had said with a non-spoiler review. So don't worry. If you want to watch this is a series on Amazon Prime. It is, I believe, 8 episodes with varying different directors, some more high profile than others. And yeah, you can watch it, again, spoiler free. Don't worry about that. I'll give you a spoiler warning. But look, straight from the outset, the main premise of this series, just for those that don't know, because it's not overly spoken about, this series. It's essentially townspeople who live above a thing called the Loop, which is, in universe, it's kind of a location by which, well, it's like a machinery, almost government building with some machinery inside it, which allows strange things to occur. It's kind of like this far-flung future, but in a retro world within the normal timeline. Things that were previously impossible become possible, so to speak. Now, this series, I could bloody stutter there. This series started with so much promise. The first episode was really, really intriguing. Like, I really enjoyed the first episode, and it's a shame that it didn't continue down that path. It's really difficult to sum up how the series is. So you'd think that it would be anthologies, I guess, and that's the impression I had when I watched the first episode and then it flitted to the second episode. I thought, oh, perfect. It's anthologies set within this one world, right? Cool, that'll be interesting. Although there is some kind of overarching story thread, which pieces itself together, and we realise that towards the end of the series, but it's not fulfilling. So when you have to do narratives that tie together, and you realise that there's an overarching narrative, it has to be fulfilling. And sadly, this was not. And it's a beautifully made series. It looks great. It is really, really nice. The effects are great. The cinematography is lovely. They're using some fantastic camera and lenses on here, genuinely. Depth of field on certain bits. It looks great. It looks absolutely brilliant. But everything from Amazon looks brilliant. So it's difficult to really praise that as something, let's lord over that, And all the acting's fairly solid. But it's quite lacking. So when I have a universe, or when I'm watching something, should I say, I want the universe to make sense. Now, science fiction is science, but fiction. It's fictional science. So it has to kind of make sense. There has to be some boundaries by which the universe adheres to. And they get around that in this series by saying, well, things that you thought were impossible are now possible. And that's fine, but they also shoot themselves in the foot, because as you've seen from these pictures, there's robots in this series, but they don't do anything. Now, there's an episode where we're introduced to the fact that there's robots in this, right? And they're autonomous, they go about doing stuff. Not only that, there's ones which you can control and things like this. But they're just left in the woods for some reason. Why? Why are they in the woods? But then also people are not using robots to do basic things, like paint a house. Well, these logical inconsistencies become really glaring, and it becomes a real shame, actually, because you shouldn't have these logical inconsistencies. And if you have robots, they should be used like the tools that they are, especially when in universe you've got people with robotic arms. These are things which would become commonplace. There has to be that air of science to the fiction. And this really does not have that. Also, I've got to say, the people in this show they're not real. They're not real people. And I know that sounds like a weird statement, but what I mean by that is that they are... Well, their actions are not what an actual person would do. And we're talking about really glaring things here. So, like, overall, I liked it. It's really slow, and I quite like a slow burn. But it's not satisfying when it gets to the end. So, enjoyed the journey. I'm intrigued enough to want to see the next one, if they come back with Season 2. But I can't wholeheartedly recommend it, because there are some massive issues with it. So that out of the way, we'll get on spoilers, because a lot of this has to be spoken about in terms of spoiler territory. So this will be your spoiler warning. So spoiler warning, and we'll get into it. Okay, so in terms of the humans not being real people, okay, there's an episode where two people switch bodies, right? A fairly generic trope. We've seen it many, many times before in multiple avenues of media. And it's a fun trope. You can do a lot with it. But what they did with it here didn't make any goddamn sense in the slightest. So these kids swap bodies, and one kid refuses to swap bodies back. Now, they swap bodies by finding an abandoned spherical machine object in the woods, and they just sit inside it, and then they swap bodies. Okay, right. Well, I can suspend my disbelief that, you know, apparently they just leave incredible experiments lying around the woods, much like they do the robots. But then when they swap bodies, one of them refuses to change back, and as a result, the one which wanted to swap bodies goes back to the woods, hops in this spherical object, and he swaps bodies with a robot. And so they believe now, obviously, the human is inhabited by a computer, so i.e. he's just brain dead, and he goes unconscious and he's hospitalized. And the other person continues living a life which isn't his, with the family of the person he swapped bodies with. Now, you're telling me that no one would notice? The mannerisms are all right, everything's right, they know everything? Like, really? Come on. Come on. And then, it's seemingly unaddressed for the rest of the season, up until we get to like the last episode. And then it's addressed. But everyone's fine about it. And the guy dies that's in the robot. He dies. But everyone's okay about this? Why? So I don't understand. Like, some of the messages behind this show don't make any sense. And like I say, it's those messages that don't make any sense which become really painful in the enjoyment, right? It becomes a hindrance of enjoying the show, that sort of science fiction element to the show, because it is beautifully made. I mean, like I say, you can see it here. Like, it's got crisp colours, it looks really nice, and the aesthetics and things like that, it looks great. And but that's the thing, right? It looks great, but there's no substance behind it. It's all show, no substance. Because when you start to break it down, literally none of it makes any goddamn sense at all. You know, no things are addressed. No things are continued. Those things which are continued are just backhanded away as if it didn't mean anything. And this might be, because I believe these are novels, so it might be that this is what happens in the novels. But then fundamentally the novels aren't very good if that's the case, which is a shame. So I think it had a lot of promise, but it was squandered with bad writing, ultimately. These humans are not real humans. They don't do what real people would do. They don't have the emotions that a real person would have. And because of that, it becomes really hard to connect and engage with them, which you have to do when you want people to really like your show. So there you go. That's my review of Tales from the Loop. I enjoyed it. It's beautifully made. The soundtrack is just stunning. But it's really let down by bad character writing. They're just not real people. And it's painful as a result of it. So there you go. If you've seen it, please do let me know. I know a lot of people really do like this, but maybe the things which I've said, maybe you have, you feel that as well, despite the fact that you really like it. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts though down below in the comment section. If you are new here, please do hit subscribe. You can stay up to date on the world of pop culture and movie news by hitting the bell notification icon. Thank you so much for watching. I have been Mr. H. Take care.